careful with this fishing. All right, well, we'll get started with, little after 10 here. Start with one of our favorite topics, transfer station. We, some of us went to, well, except for you two guys, visited, Echo Park and, town of Manchester's, recycling, facilities a week ago this past Wednesday. And, the Echo Park, we learned all about things that we probably don't want to recycle here, as well as how they do it. It's very efficient operation, very interesting. The town of Manchester is, somehow they make it work, which is really, something I marvel at.
Well, they
What is it?
don't have a lot of money.
Well, but, they said it's about half of what they said they had 1,100 of those cards that they put out. We put out about 2,500 tags or permits, so it's a little less than half of it, but
40 customers per session.
Yeah, that's,
it's just,
that's,
you know,
that's,
I don't know if the back roads are littered or what. Anyway, so, that's
it was
for
interesting.
you guys, a little background. With the
And
rest of the
Caitlin,
group.
thanks for setting it up. So that's interesting.
So any
Got
kind
our
of
juices flowing and-
Al had
Al got
suggested
creative.
a central layout that, I mean, it's not like there's dozens of different ways to lay it out, but I mean, it's pretty, we're gonna wind up driving into a facility and sure it'll be offloaded.
Well, I think
Drive out.
it's useful to do some excursions and throw some things out there to think about, and I had trouble kind of visualizing how we would do that weight system before we went to Manchester. So I think it's useful to go up there and see how they embedded the scaling with the, like the household waste and stuff like that. And then, how they got the bin hopper for the household trash, so it was definitely useful.
Oh,
And that's, but one of the things I couldn't really get my hands around is, well, you only can have a limited number of those things. You can't buy a whole bunch of those scales and a whole bunch of bins. So somehow you gotta limit it. And like everybody else, I was kind of surprised they could get by with one unit, but if their volume's only 4 customers per session. Anyway, so I think it's useful to kind of make some excursions, draw some diagrams, have them out there, look at the flow pattern, and then we need to continue to see what comes up with as far as what the state and the county come up with. But I think it's useful to at least back some ideas around how we might try to put it on the ground. And those are very rudimentary layouts.
Well, the biggest thing I would say is that, from your 2 different visits that you've done now is, identify generally 3 things that you liked and 3 things you didn't like at each facility. Just keep a running list as you go through them. That way, when you get into a more detailed design, you can use that as a point of reference, whoever is actually laying stuff out. It's good to create a running list of that stuff, things you like, things you didn't like.
Well, the main thing, like Terry already mentioned, the main thing about the Eco Park, that's way over the top. We don't want to get into that level of detail, where we
I
have
use
separate bins for circular batteries and.
it's it's way beyond what a town should really be into, but it is impressive.
I think one of the more impressive things was the barrel hot dogs from King.
Yeah.
Which any proceeds from that go to run them down. I mean, it's a nice thing to do, but holy mackerel, that barrel was about half full. There had to be, I don't know, 10,000 groceries in there, just a little. But the detail is really agrees.
But flag recovery.
Yeah, that's a good deal. They had a
Service, yeah.
pretty fancy locker. That costs a lot of
Probably
nickels.
supplied by this contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, the public-private relationship there, with waste management, and some of the other entities that have, collection election services located there, so that, I mean, it's a countywide thing, so I mean, at the higher level is what we're talking about.
That would
But all
definitely,
the different
definitely
things, I mean, from the little round batteries to half tops to tires to.
It's very hazardous waste.
Well, encourage your.
it's
Well,
very
one of the things we
important.
talked about is maybe county needs to have a big, what they call a big hub, and then we be a satellite hub. Rather than, kind of look at them having a big hub and then something comes off and we'd be one of the satellite hubs, because we don't wanna.
Yeah, that's,
get into the-
well, the eco park, the one thing is like, you can literally bring anything there. Anything there can, and recycle it and offload it, so. That's,
Yeah, it is a county facility, so Ontario County, yeah, household hazardous waste, some of those other, tires, things, we really don't want to take.
What do you use that you don't have for, if you don't mind me asking?
we use it to basically get rid of mostly all the stuff that I can't just put at the curb, because we use solid waste now, that used to be doing stuff that I got bought out. But yes, batteries, excess paint, anytime we have, pesticides, that type of thing.
Okay, so mostly like batteries and household hazardous waste.
Right, but when we were converting from CRTs to LCDs, right? So we definitely unloaded a lot there. So a lot of e-waste, computers, laptops, old tablets, that type of thing.
Okay.
Well, I guess for our next step, I'd kind of like, maybe you, Jim, and you guys to kind of look at those sketches I come up with in the flow pattern, and then just give us some feedback, and we can do some iterations, and then the other thing is wait and see what the county and the state
Yeah.
came up with as far as.
I still can't, that Manchester facility. Smaller, yes, but the hours that they're open are similar to the hours that we're open. And I was over here Wednesday, I couldn't come last Saturday. When I pulled in here, it was 6 lanes wide, it was awful Wednesday. That was, I don't know, 6 o'clock, that wasn't
Yeah.
3:45, I mean, it was 6 o'clock, and it was still, 4th of July was closed, I realized, still. How we manage that is going to be, the rest of it, the layout and all that, I mean, yeah. Weighing bins, all that thing, probably had to be spread out a bit in order to get in, to pull bins out, put empty ones in, all that stuff, but managing that flow, that traffic flow, because it's, I mean, sometimes there's nobody, I pulled in, there's nobody there, and other times there's 100 cars there, how do you
So I did
manage that?
do a quick calculation. So Manchester said that they get people in and out in a minute. So I think I used 2 minutes as a calculation. So we have 1,500 households with permits. We get about 2,500, but some households have 2. So we have about 1,500 households. They're each here for 2 minutes. And we can have 4 cars at a time. So, divided by
Well.
60. So we would need a minimum of, so that comes out to be 12 and a half hours per week. So, which is what we're open now. We've already talked about expanded hours to give us, and I realize it's not like steady,
You can't schedule.
we have rushes and lulls, but I did think that that was a useful kind of way to think about it. That with the way that Al had drawn it out, having 4 cars at a time, that if they were back to back to back in perfect timing, that would be 12 and a half
Yeah.
hours. So
So I think you'd have to at least double or triple that, because you can't have 4 cars leave and 4 pull in empty. 4 out,
Oh,
4 in. That's not gonna
Gonna
happen.
be staggered. But I think a
Yeah.
critical
I mean,
thing is like only having that main structure, thing, the household, and just what I show in there. And then everything else, you have the bypass, and people can
That's a
go
great
over
idea.
there and take care of the other stuff, keep the construction guys over there and, kind of separate them. And then that way that one building's focus, I can see where you can quickly move 4 cars kind of in and out if you kind of duplicate on both sides of the thing, so people aren't running back and forth. So anyway, so any comments you might have, Jim, and I can tweak those and we
It's
can.
also gonna have to be, it's gonna have to drive up into this thing. For
Oh, yeah,
day thing, but you're still gonna, that. You're gonna have to be above the metal bin and above the construction
Yeah,
bin too,
yeah.
so
Gravity.
that bypass has gotta, somehow you gotta.
oh, yeah, well, that's why I say, that's just a rudimentary
Yeah.
sketches,
But those are things to be thinking about.
It's gotta be a
How
lot
much
of-
Fill you need out there.
Right, yeah. You're going, we've there twice, 3 times.
Well,
Maybe all the fill from this project is 364.
I don't know if I want that.
Well,
They
yeah.
should encourage the developer to make a big gash in the hillside.
No, but that, it is, it's still. Traffic flow, trucks gonna be out there managing traffic, what's holding the cab.
Yeah.
Badge.
For, in the
Massive.
interim, to be considered additional hours to see the house.
Right now, you mean?
Yeah. Like you just be able to.
Well, it's
so we
What
have
days are you open
the
right now?
budget and stuff.
Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Well,
Wednesday, there's.
I was wondering if we did
4 hours
something
each day.
Thursday. You guys did from noon to 4:30. You know, it's 4 more hours just to try.
I don't know, has it really gotten worse than it has been? I mean, it's like we already said, you get spurts and then you go out there another time. I know I was there the other, last time I went, like 3 cars there on Saturday morning, something like that, so.
Or do we open earlier on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, because there's always people here at 7.
Or do you put a live web cam up to let people see the congestion, they can make a decision.
Good idea.
I wouldn't see substantially increase it, but if you want to open like an hour earlier or something. I'm not sure.
But isn't it usually at the end of the day?
Yes, at 10:30 to 12, or Wednesdays, they're here at 3:30 till 6, like. I know it was, we missed a day, but like, they were parked from where you guys were parked. Out the type of 20, just trying to,
They were right on the corner here.
Oh, leave.
just to leave.
You had to pull out, there was a queue to leave.
Yeah, to leave.
Well, you get one guy out there, especially around 5 o'clock, when other businesses are letting
Right.
out. People are going home, go out there, if you want to turn right, usually not too bad, turn left.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
You get behind, just turn left. You should.
Yeah.
Well, and on Wednesdays too, at 4:30, our guys are all trying to leave, and that tends to be a busy time for the transfer station. So there's been a line the last couple Wednesdays, it wasn't just this past.
The other problem was Wednesday was, they were so wide, we couldn't get our equipment in. Like, we couldn't bring dump trucks. We couldn't turn. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where,
But people come at 3:30, even
They
before
suck.
3:30, I said, maybe we should open.
Yeah, all the seniors.
they just all come.
All the old
You know,
guys.
one of the things is they want to be first in line,
Yeah,
so
that's what it
if
is.
you change the time, they're still gonna probably
You're
come
gonna be
early,
earlier,
be
yeah.
first in line.
But gets them out of here too.
But if you opened a couple hours earlier, your guys wouldn't be fighting to get equipment in. It would
Right,
serve
but
you fast, right?
Right.
I don't know, they have something for you and Todd and
Sure.
you guys out there and
Discuss.
some recommendations. It's a busy place and then it's small. I mean,
Right.
It's like an accordion.
Yeah.
How's it shutting people off at noon time on Saturday or something?
Most of them were pretty good about it. We get stragglers once in a while.
Well, we were out at, before the primary, we were out here that Saturday. And there were 2 people who come over to talk to us, close to noon. And, that one kid's name, Jonathan.
Yeah.
He came over and said he was leaving. He said, when I leave, I'm closing the back gate. But we won't be able to get out that way, so you might want to think about leaving. He said, we're backing this stuff up there. But, yeah, I mean, usually they close the gate, that's the way it stops. Well,
Right.
you know, what people always say, who's telling me they got stuck in there.
Spend the night.
Ah,
Stuck in there.
I think it's stuff, that might be, well, 40's gonna get stone and stuff. So they'll be back there shoveling, like you would know they were back there. Sometimes it can lightly take longer to get stuck. It'll be the first time.
One of the other areas that you were mentioning the other day that really needs some attention is the brush pile, where you locate it, and mulch comes from it. I mean, that area is really.
You know, we have a problem with an area to put it, we have to have an area to pick it up, to bring the equipment to grind it and stack that also. So,
Well, that's
So
to
you need
remove
like
everything to
two
east.
windrows essentially, right?
yeah, we're not supposed to put anything over there on the west side, and we can't go east anymore.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, we have several different piles out there to be stacked.
We built something over there toward the eastern end of our property.
Mhm.
Can't add this room for that brush pile down there, considering we have a pond out there and, turning radius and all that. Kind of stuff.
Sure. I don't know, we have to,
I would think so. That's
I would
a fairly
put
decent
it like
size.
on the west side of the property where the current stormwater pond is now.
Oh, move the pond.
No, just put the brush over there, like that's the last thing you do on the way out.
Oh,
Okay, like just be out of the way of everything.
there's a lot of tax pine out there now. Pretty good chunk.
Yeah, we have to keep packing up. Fit it in this. And then when we grind it all, try to do it on a non-windy days, we don't load into the apartments. So.
It's pretty good space, but then again, it's kind of packed in there because you got everything else. I mean, it's pretty good space on, and that's why I kind of showed putting it on the, kind of on the west as you go out.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
And again, people going, just doing mulch can take that bypass.
Yeah, you want to use like a bypass around it, just so people don't have to wait in line.
Obviously not the scale, because that yard waste pile is a little bit bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Terry, you're being hard on me.
No,
don't
no,
you?
I'm not saying, it will have to,
Right.
it'll go
Oh, yeah,
like
it's
this.
just a sketch.
Right.
But, it's not all, they're definitely not
All
scale.
that stuff to start thinking about, because in order to elevate all that area, we're gonna need a lot of.
Well, not everything needs to be elevated.
No, but-
No,
But
but-
where you're
Section
throwing,
1 and 2,
yeah,
then you're not gonna go down from 1 and back up to 2.
Right, and the same with your construction.
it depends on how you elevate, if you're gonna elevate using like a strong wall or a ready rock or something like that, where you can create like a retaining wall in between, so you can slide your roll off,
Maybe.
in that space, something to think about.
Mhm. I haven't put much thought to that yet.
Yeah,
I liked how you broke out the station 1 and 2. That was something Jim and I kind of chatted about after our field trips. The one thing that isn't on here that I think we need to figure out where it's gonna go is we're gonna need some sort of small staff break room or staff area.
I showed it on a previous one, but I didn't show
We
it.
need to have bathrooms off of that. And I'd also like some sort of, whether it's just a covering or a small building or something that could be sort of a multi-use space. So if we had, people from the Republican committee that were at the transfer station, or I was doing some sort of public outreach or event, or wanted to set up displays, or if we ever did want to get into doing, some sort of swap shop quarterly or once or twice a year, sort of a flexible space that we could use for multi-purpose, I think would be something we should consider.
I think that infield area there can be expanded
Oh, yeah.
to do a lot of things. I mean, you're gonna need room, like you're saying, to pull the compactors out.
Correct.
You gotta have a place to pack it.
And you can move that yard waste pile to the other side of the drive, and have the mulch pile maybe on the inside, the yard waste pile, that give you more flexibility to expand the yard waste. So, yeah, but I think as part of the concept, how you're spot on. The idea now, Whether we get into weighing, that's the other issue.
Yeah.
And the logistics and the technical issues involved with scale systems and all that.
The organic collection.
You got
Food
those
waste.
other diagrams? Food waste is in station one.
Anything that's your normal weekly household
Yeah.
stuff is in station one, so. Your food waste, your recycle bin, and your trash. And I like how you've laid it out here, Al, because we're gonna wanna put the trash last. The things that are low, aren't gonna be charged for, we wanna put at the beginning. And then the thing that you get charged for is at the end. If that makes sense.
It will require at least 4 people.
Now, Al, where would the food waste, you have it to be down there at the beginning with the plastic bags, okay, as you come into the building.
And you can show the station too, just, so you get.
I did notice put tires on here. for
Well, that's
I
all
don't
up
think we're
for
gonna add that. We just
So
don't
let
have
the
an
county
outlet
take care
for
of
it.
that stuff.
Yeah, we just don't have an outlet for them. The county does the events and they're, all the shops in town take them as well for a small fee.
Do I still collect like waste oil? I mean, if the county, I think it'd be a good idea for the county to mimic something like that Echo Park. Out there and let people take batteries and that, tires with waste oil stuff. They were collecting cooking oil up there too, not industrial. The average person doesn't have a whole lot of that stuff. Maybe at Thanksgiving you got 2 gallons, that's it. But we'll have to decide whether we want to collect.
Yeah.
The food waste,
Electronics, I would say it'd
they
be
become
under-
a bigger, getting them out of the waste stream is the goal.
Yeah.
And that might become a bigger, or demand a larger space or volume.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch base with Impactor here, pretty soon and feel them out, see if they have any suggestions or, they have a fairly large operation at the Rochester Public Market as a drop-off site for them. So I'm wondering how they handle that larger volume there. They might be able to offer some suggestions.
Is it next year that the larger institutions have 2022
January.
food waste? They have to-
Yep.
Interesting to see how they go.
So what we collect in here, I just mainly wanted to put the space, and we'd have to decide
How much
exactly what we take in. But the idea is to put it over in station 2 instead of
Right
station
in front of the station.
You get all the contractors out of the way from the trash. and recycling.
We don't accept waste from contractors.
Well, yeah, I won't say, but there's some comes in.
Oh, yeah. There's some that come, you just don't know it. They just come their own vehicles. Correct. I agree.
Okay,
One other thing, I know to get into the trials and tribulations of working with a weighing system, scale system, the issues that can cause. But one thing nice about it, I was thinking, and this is thinking outside the box, is to be a way to incentivize our residents to recycle more, that when they register, or they put their card in, we can get a quantity of recyclables that they receive or they brought. And then we could go work with some local businesses to try to provide coupons that the more you recycle, you maybe can earn coupons and points so that you can use that for shopping at Wegmans or shopping at CVS. So you're giving them a reward for their recycling, and that may incentivize people to recycle.
Well, we weren't really,
Since we're quantifying it.
under this concept, and they don't do it either, they don't weigh the recycle.
No, they don't just put it in.
but
Yes.
you guys supervisor there over in Manchester made an interesting point that as you get those organic waste and heavy stuff out of the household, waste stream, recyclables are gonna be going up, so. You know, providing for the ability to weigh that upfront is this suggestion, which is a good one, I think, because that volume could shift and you won't be bringing in enough household waste to pay tipping fees and salaries and
Yeah.
maintenance.
That's
and
interesting.
all
It's
that
really
stuff.
increased
So I
that.
think
We also don't know what the cost of the recycling per ton is gonna be after 2028. Right now, it's $0 per ton, but we can start having to pay for those materials after
Yeah.
2028,
Yeah.
because that's part of
Anywhere else to go.
the contract with Casella that we're locked in at that price.
Well, you could have the same bin system you have for the household trash, but then, of course, that just a little less, more money to set up the system.
Yeah, so we may not need the scales now, but we should definitely
Well, it should
have a
provide whatever needs to
space
be
to retro,
provided,
should we need to
so
retro.
that they could be easily installed. you know.
Exactly.
Sorry,
Okay.
sir. Sorry.
All right,
You'd like,
Okay, I'm sorry. Just something I was thinking of. and
there is a carrot, and when you were talking about that carrot, you know, some kind of.
It's a carrot rather than.
There is a
stick.
stick too, that's that cents per pound, but there is the stick.
And the stick is, yeah, the cents per pound on a household.
Yeah.
outfit.
Yeah, well, yeah, people are eating that carrot.
No, I know.
Okay, well. I think we've beaten that one up pretty good. Let's move on to sanitary sewer discussion on County Road 28. I'm sure Greg has got a lot to tell us about his meetings with the county. Isn't it?
They're asking for some additional information. I gotta get back to them with some anticipated average and peak hourly flow rates, but one of the things they talk about is future growth. So I just didn't know how we wanted to answer that because I don't really think we intend to see future growth with that sewer district.
no, actually, there wasn't any intent to grow it unless,
What would happen?
But I would want to, that's why I want to bring this to you guys and talk about before I responded with no future growth is planned, or, maybe there's some ancillary growth with like some E1 stations or something like that.
Would that impact? How would that uptown?
it depends
Oh,
on
there's no
the
doubt.
manhole you chose to discharge to the city. Like, do you go all the way down to North Road? Or do you go up like Candlewood?
Yeah, our ultimate discharge location here in Parkside, if it's further south, would have an impact on the overall district, but they're really just looking at how many units were encapsulated.
Well, is that potential
There's no real.
600 unit?
Pardon?
Yeah. It's right in the same area.
That's near Blue Heron.
Right.
Would that be serviced by this area, or is it going toward 332?
Where's that?
That's
Same
the
area.
area that we're looking at.
East of Blue Heron Park.
No, that's,
Oh, so that's further south, so that wouldn't necessarily be going to the pump station.
I guess when I did May, Chuck, or anybody is there, there's that lot that just sold. You know, this land that was here. This. I don't know how much we developed on
Oh,
Yeah, how
got
much
around
was
a couple apartments in there, yeah, he's got coming off 28.
it. Yeah,
He went away, I haven't heard anything. more.
oh, okay. Cause I know that it said sold, sales signs is all.
But I guess the answer is, at
Like
this point
20
in time, I don't think we have any intent to expand. it.
Well, what we can do is we can look at the vacant lots and, put a rough number of EDUs per, based on the zoning, right? So the only thing that throws us off is obviously when you guys get into your mixed use / incentive zoning, where the units can change drastically.
Right,
Where's the boundaries for the uptown?
so. Kind of like this area here.
Yeah, that park side already has a gravity sewer along it, so I'm like, I wouldn't anticipate that going to our station.
Firehouse Road. There's some apartments up near Emerson.
Yeah. Obviously, the smaller we make the station, the better. Is, you know,
Right.
if, you know, if we're gonna go ahead and show that there's like, you know, another 1,000 EDUs that come to this thing, then, you know, it's a much bigger pump station and much larger financial cost to the residents.
Basically like this right here. So. I think that's where that developer is thinking of putting stuff.
So that would feed into the same.
Yeah, the forced sewer main runs right up through here. And then it goes gravity somewhere here by the firehouse. This manhole and back to the city. So there's some gravity here that runs this way, to this manhole here. I just don't know what its capacity is or what size it is. Not sure. So, yeah. But anyways, I would probably say there's no per se future plans for future growth on 28 Road, Risser, and part of Risser, part of Emerson. We're just looking at the same area we're always been looking
16 dwellings.
So we'll just do a quick little look at the vacant land that's along our district or within our proposed district area, and we'll assess the use for those. And then he's basically asked, and then he follows up with saying some information that they want to look at his downstream capacity, and then determine what kind of type of flow study requirements they're going to ask of us. And then review of their sewer capacity I made with the city, which I don't think is for this part of the town is nearly much of an issue. And then establish the minimum pump station criteria, but you know, I was, at least what we had hypothesized was a small pump station with on-site emergency power. That's about it, you know, with a generator. So we'll see what the county kind of pushes back with. I've talked with Steve May, and I know he's been pushing for some sort of standardization. The county doesn't really have any real standardization on pump stations. So it makes it difficult for someone like me who's trying to, like, you know, put a number to what a pump station would cost without knowing what hoops are gonna really make us jump through. You know, if they make us go to a full block closure, you know, where it's, then obviously, you know, my number is probably not right in the PER.
Right.
It's below parks.
Caitlin
put up the lot. That's the guy who wanted to put in the condominiums on 28.
Oh, right there. Oh,
Yeah, I think that's too far south.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be part of anything from our district.
That's the only one.
But there's probably a handful of vacant parcels that are along us, or part of our district that we have proposed.
What's the total number and what were the upgraded? You know, like around the.
That's about 100 EDUs, so I mean, for the vacant EDUs,
8%.
yeah, it might be another, you know, 20 to 30 EDUs total for future, but that's still not gonna push it over on a small pump station. So I'll continue to go back and forth, and then as you know, everyone is copied in this. I got Jack Ron, I've got Bill Wright, Don Havens, Tim McElligott, all kind of copied in this whole thing. So I don't know.
and he's like the go between. Like I start with him, and he tells me where to go from there. He
Right.
helps me out with a lot of location.
He more
Can't, but he also inspections.
inspection signs.
So.
I always felt that before.
It'll be a little bit of a process, dealing with the county. And you know, I'm not trying to bash the county. I think it's just mostly, it's hard to get the information out of them, because they don't want to paint themselves into a corner.
Right.
So, you know, they're playing it very cautious. So I'm just, you know, it's gonna take a little bit to migrate through this. And, just want to try to keep it as simple as possible until they say, okay, now you need to do this and this and this. You know, then we can come back and talk about what our next steps really are from the town side.
Okay,
Right?
move on to the water crisis. Probably won't be talking about this one for much longer.
No, we started up the chlorine system. We are adding chlorine now, right, Jim?
Yeah. right.
So, you know, it's, all the systems, I guess, have been started up. There's still some debugging that needs to be worked out. You know, most importantly, our chlor vac system is more of a chlor flow system. Flow.
It's,
Instead of sucking the gas out, it seems to be pushing air in, which is just filling the room with chlorine gas.
That good.
no,
yeah.
it wasn't good yesterday.
So the Arden system guy is like, yeah, you guys got the old fan and we've upgraded it, you know, since upgraded it. I'm like, well, that would be nice to know.
Right.
So they're shipping us the new fan, which will double the CFM, which hopefully will evacuate the gases the way it was intended.
Before they were just pushing it around.
Well, it's a Venturi system, so like the smaller fan, I don't think it's creating enough of the velocity going by the pipe is enough to suck the air out. So I think they use a bigger fan. I think they'll, but there's, you know, we
But they designed it.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, it's their unit.
Yeah.
So
So why,
I don't have the answer. But here it is.
yeah,
where how many people have killed it?
no, it's not deadly, but man, your iceberg.
And it was,
Wow.
It was not a pleasant space to be in.
no.
That was not kill any bacteria in you though.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're working through some process, you know, iterations here to try to figure out like, you know, how hot of a solution we can make with the trichlor tablets and getting the 10 feed pumps, you know, pacing at the right pace. So I think we're close.
This is gonna take a little bit of seasonal usage with that new pump station to know how to operate it. So we're not coordinating year round. We're only doing it, say, Memorial Day to Labor Day, just because the city don't want to see a little bit of chlorine, because they're trying to keep the stage two disinfection byproducts for everybody to sell to low. If you put too much chlorine, it creates more of them. So we're rechlorinating as it leaves, so that we have at least level 1 in our system. It's a far outlying areas of chlorine. So, and that's the same with Bristol. So again, it's gonna be trending for the next 3-4 months to see where we should be leaving the facility, what it does throughout the system. So it's just, the first year will just be playing with the up and down ratio of going out. So
Yeah, but we noticed is that at least from what I've seen in my just a couple of days that I've been there, is the chlorine residual coming from the city is definitely
yeah, it's up and down.
it's up and down quite a bit. So
And I don't know if it's because it's up the tank elevation, like the being like Asian water, like how long has the water been in the tank before we get it
right.
back out?
I'm thinking like the hot sunny days are probably when we're starting where we see like the
dips.
dips. So it's definitely an interesting process control iteration.
It's mechanical control, not manual, right? I mean, it just
Well, right now
depending on what you're
we're full
receiving.
pacing in right now. We do have some SCADA built in to basically adjust the gain on the pumps based on the chlorine analyzer. But you know, we're trying to balance that all out so we don't end up overfeeding or underfeeding. So that's why we're kind of running it more just a straight full pace scenario right now. And then the other part too, the hockey unit needs some additional service, right?
Right.
And basically a final startup really on that unit. There's some bits and pieces that aren't necessarily square
price and availability of chlorine, but.
Trichlor tablets have been easy to come across. That's been just picked up what,
Or
seven
kinds of
pills.
swimming pools.
We just got something else yesterday and I asked the vendor if they were gonna have, if they had a shortage of that material or if they expected to. And they said they're very well stocked with that material. So,
The powder chlorine shots, for your pool, that's hard to come by. But, yeah, the trichlor has not been, so. But again, it's just gonna be a trial and error between the hot unit going, we want to leave it 1.75, so it's ramps up to that 1.75, but are we making enough solution hot enough to get to that once we're starting slowly. We started at 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. So we don't want a hot load sitting in the hopper, then leaving if the chlorine's already leaving high. So it's just gonna be, it was the same thing at Pierce Park, we put that in, it just took a little bit to adjust to what level of chlorine was coming. And also we weren't overflowing chlorine. So it's a little work in progress. There's a punch list of stuff that it's very slowly getting to.
Yeah, the punch
I
list,
mean, it's just,
no one's gonna get the punch list done, like, really, whatever, say a week or two, that's
Right.
not gonna happen, it's probably gonna drag out for, at least a month.
So you're holding final payment or?
Well, we have retainage.
we have retainage.
That, which is generally final payment, no one's actually put in a request except for, I guess, for Coliseum. So, we can review that and we can do a partial release on Coliseum's retainage and still hold one down, just, till the end, right? The idea is hopefully to process everyone's final payment at the same time.
Everybody's equipment out of the site now. Removed.
Yeah, except for a backhoe and a few other things. Yeah, for the most part, everything's off the sites now.
Yeah, we have grass growing pretty much everywhere at this point, so.
Spots need some swerves up, but nothing.
I think in general, they got all the fencings up, the gates are up. So
Gates are locked.
We're having an issue with the gate closure at Kramer Road. So I don't know what it is, it keeps popping a fuse. It's not the electricity coming in, it's something. They're working on it. I don't know. So.
Okay, so kids can have parties up there.
Yeah, sure.
not without renting it first.
Is there any, videos for Dallas to the site up there?
There is
Or county doesn't have
No.
any.
No, we have nothing up there. I have nothing at either side,
Okay.
which is
Something we can address.
grass, yeah.
Yeah, does the city have anything that,
They do it the larger plant.
do they?
Mhm. Yep.
All right. So Woolhouse Road.
Right.
Country Road.
Provided us a new
Yeah, proposal to update
proposal
that.
to update that, that's back in 17. They came to the town, at that time, the town board approved a resolution to create the district at X amount of dollars, but it's been going on 5 years basically by the time we get around to it. So I asked Greg to present to us a revised map plan report cost. Because without knowing that cost, we don't know what the district is gonna cost those residents on Rosier Road and Woolhouse
And the new tanks changed the hydraulics just a little bit, so,
Right.
there was a conclusion in that report that they would need, some people would need boosters. Individual boosters for pressure, which I believe are eliminated,
Road. Yeah, with the new tank.
with the new tanks, yeah, so,
Gonna go
Yeah,
up to that
all that
high
stuff.
point.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get up to the
You're
high
saying
point
about
now
that.
on Rosier. So. Yes,
So you could tie in, not much more than that anyway.
you can
Well, I
tie in
mean,
that
we-
road if you wanted, it's a loop system, but it's just, there's only one house.
Yeah. This is where it's at.
Right.
Does there not road have the portion that road, they have water? They do, sorry.
We
Yeah,
put it in
not all stuff.
7 years ago, 6 years
Oh,
ago.
Yeah, that's that last.
Yeah.
portion.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah.
There.
So we carry it that far.
No, we wouldn't do
This
that.
is just for loss of housing.
This is for like basically Santa's house, Sam's house back south, Cheshire, and then Rosier up to Woolhouse, so basically it's a loop. Okay, get rid of any dead ends. So.
Does that need to go on the agenda?
This proposal,
we're gonna do it.
oh, for the town board, yeah, sure.
Yeah, do write a resolution. Second table.
Today's the day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, today's the day. So is it 3,500?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the same, that we had for the Kramer Road.
I will say, like, last month and this month, that a lot of southern residents are looking for water.
Is that going on like Fuckaway?
First, Bristol has,
Especially in people in Bristol,
yeah, I have another comment.
People were,
in Bristol, not water.
oh, over.
I'm 32, 164,
The more usage over there would be great.
so, but we've discussed it a couple times over there, and people are pretty adamant they don't want it. But there are people who want it, so I don't know what's
Low wells or quality of water?
quality of water, and
The
the
water's going down.
water's
a little.
poor. It's the same in our town, the water's poor. Coy Road, Second Point Road. Especially Second Point Road, I've asked for water many times.
A lot of people.
Boy,
Is that, who's the tank at, Bristol Harbor do for those people in Central Point, because I think the point coming from Bristol Harbor, comes up to the Lake Road. And the part, can you push water off from there, if that was,
But they push up to the water treatment facility first, and then from there they put it in the storage tank.
yeah, is that tank height though, is it
No, it's not high enough.
not straight?
That's a water corporation, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if they can push the water past the town line.
Well, yeah, but there's a question. about that.
Right.
Right.
But I don't know where that ever went, we haven't heard back from the state, that public sector. We call this. That's fall.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was probably 6 months ago.
Yeah, so,
I saw one of the South Bristol town board members. And they had more about it
yeah.
just a couple weeks ago.
Culvert map.
Yes. Chuck brought that to our attention.
Yeah, as you know, one of the action items in the comp plan is preparing a stormwater master plan. And I think there's a couple ways you can do this. You can get into a detailed inventory of all the existing systems and put it on GIS and then analyze each system. An engineering group could look at each link and determine what the condition, the capacity of each culvert would be, and then you come up with a master plan where your deficiencies are, a priority list of how to correct them, and how much it's going to cost to do it. But it was interesting when I was reading the latest issue of the Talk of Towns. They talked about a Cornell model that in combination with the LiDAR, you can maybe do a tabletop study of what you have out there, and it was just something I thought of, and I thought I'd bring it to the attention of somebody, and Senator Terry said, let's talk about it. So I don't know if that's something you would think about in the future. I know the Drainage Advisory Committee, we haven't met through the pandemic, for various reasons. First of all, we thought we had a pretty good track of where the problems were in the town, and it didn't appear we were having any more problems. And so we sort of went into hiatus during the pandemic. We haven't reconvened. And I haven't talked this over with you, Terry, I was gonna mention it to you. Maybe the DAC could be dissolved and this committee could sort of pick up a lot of the activity that, because a lot of the people on that committee are here.
Right.
You sat in as a liaison, Greg was involved with it, Jim was involved with it, Caitlin was the.
Well, and the other people all were people that had problems,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and that's,
Yeah.
yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of interest from the residents that really were on the committee. And
Well, it is part of the public works system.
it is,
Glad you
it
did
is,
it.
and the people who are involved with it day to day are in this room, so. I think it's something that we should look at, so maybe taking the ball moving forward with this master plan is something that this committee should maybe look at. And, in the future, once funding's available and go through the process. That was the other thing we had problems with the DAC was if we had a project, how do you, the process of getting the money was very awkward.
Yeah. well, a
And
lot
this
of the
way, I
problems-
think you have more of a direct pipeline to the board if you come up with a project. That can be.
Yeah, one of the problems we had with the drainage committee, a lot of the problems were associated with county facilities.
Or private.
And,
Or private.
yeah, private, and we didn't really have that ability, as you say, to, now, the county has been doing quite a bit of work at County Road 16.
Yeah.
Started in Seneca Point,
And-
working north, they've done quite a, factors that one up on the hill just, up from where Miller's Nursery was, or near Coy Road.
Right.
That they've got, they've already assembled a lot of the.
We're using snap line, sliding pipe to reline a pipe.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
plates are here.
But they've worked at quite a few of the cross culverts coming down the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the cross culverts, yeah.
Mhm.
I did know
On the
the
north
north
end,
end,
too.
somebody's established a spot trap corner, Coy.
16.
Yeah, the people, they're putting stuff there, some of it disappears, some of it stays. There's a nice old Bose reel there, if you want one, and
Yeah, well,
dog cushion off this.
it's usually,
I just dropped some stuff off.
oh, no.
This just started, yeah, it's like 2 weeks.
Oh,
Ever
really?
since the work started out there. There's also a porta potty in case
Yeah, that's.
when you're
pretty
dropping
good.
stuff off, you have to go, it's right there.
We're doing this kind of seems like a good idea. We get any idea how much it costs to
What do
set
we
it
have
up?
now?
No, not much.
I mean. in
Not
terms
much
of
to
where
set up?
we-
No, not much as far as inventory goes.
you know,
You don't really have you don't have a good inventory system at all.
Chris Jensen would have a little bit more.
He does. Chris always says, I've got those maps. I say, you know, Chris, you have outfalls.
Right.
We've got record plans from subdivisions as built, those kind of things, but there's a lot of places that we have no record of.
Would we
That
have
was like the
to,
other day, Rick Dean called me, goes, hey, blah, 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 tell me this. I go, Rick, how long ago that was done? He goes, he thinks about it, he goes, I guess it's been a while. I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, what is this pipe that does this? I'm like, I'll come look at it with you. I mean, I had no idea it was there.
Just putting together an inventory, I've talked about this for years. It's so valuable knowing where the pipes are, what sizes they are, in terms of future development, maintenance. If you have a pond, a low spot, you're out there and you're looking at 3 feet of water, and you say, I know I got a pipe over here somewhere. If you can, look at a plan and say, yeah, I got a 18-inch pipe, cross pipe that should be here, it's probably blocked up, and you can go looking for it rather than stand there in the water trying to figure out how to drain this.
would we want to contact with somebody to do an inventory? I mean,
Maybe, I mean, like, they could do winter time.
would it take?
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was just going out with a GPS and sitting there with a backpack and, locate and track it.
I didn't think of winter. Winter would be a good time to do it while you got.
So,
a week where it's decent. Send 2 guys out to document the stuff and maybe get some help with them, or like we can get the information, send MRP to get it laid out on the GIS that we have water.
What do we need?
Because we do have layers for water and
Right.
sewer.
We have storm, water, we got all kinds of layers and stuff.
So
So
this would be another.
another layer.
Or a complete layer.
Right.
So what do we need to do to move it forward?
Are you familiar with this model with Cornell?
So I ran that by the site guys and they said, you know, they haven't, this is relatively new to them. They haven't really seen it, but they like the idea as kind of like more like an initial triage. kind of.
Yeah, it's a take like.
Yeah, so, you know, obviously it doesn't replace, you read into the fine print, it doesn't replace a detailed design work, you know, as it relates to evaluation, but it'll at least give you probably a gross overview, and maybe help you focus on certain areas.
Yeah.
So, we feel that it would be beneficial. I don't know what the cost of it is.
Yeah,
I mean, we've used the Cornell road program before, right? So that was not a very, you know, wasn't expensive.
No.
Or it was mostly just manpower, right? So I'm
Well,
imagining it's
I'm
gonna be
willing
something
to do
very
some
similar.
research if you can do it your end, just, you know, maybe have the guys check out what it's all about, what the cost and work, but I can spend some time.
Yeah, I've been waiting to see if there's like a workshop that opens up on it, so we can maybe, you know, attend seminar. That's what I'm looking for. I get emails from that Cornell Cooperative Extension, Cornell Roads Program, so I just keep waiting to see when this thing will pop.
Well, the other, I mean, that's one thing, but being on the ground and here it is right here.
Right.
That is something you would have to pull the trigger and have to
Yeah.
do it during,
like I said,
like you say, during the winter.
winter months, get a forest stories on it, and go out. And,
We get from Chris Jensen what he has, we get the as-built from all the development, so, I mean, that, and then just sort of feed in where the gaps are with field work. And then we start the analysis possibly with the.
I would probably want to host. You just want to shoot points, yeah. So just do it by time,
Right.
post. How do I- The reason why I say it's, I don't know, it's post something that the reason is like, there's areas that we just can't get a signal.
Oh.
So we just go out, you just go, it doesn't take, it's a time stamp, and you go back and you take the information and then you download it, and it knows what satellites were at that time. And then it can convert it.
Learned this from the water.
Yes, like in Cheshire, you can't get a good signal, but if you go in and just, you say click, it knows the date and time. You go back and load it, the machine, load it back in, and then it tells you the coordinates. And so.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah, because without it, you'd be standing there forever waiting for it to lock in.
Okay, let me do a little more research. You can do a little more research if you're on.
Yeah.
Post process, that's.
Right.
And,
Yeah, I'm not sure what the accuracy really ends up being, with that.
I don't either, but
But it's better than nothing.
you know there's a culvert there and it's the
Right.
size of steel or plastic.
Well, a lot of times you can look at it there, you know, there photograph and
Yeah.
start to really.
And maybe,
you know, say, oh, there's a cross pipe here or
future
something.
meeting, have Chris Jensen come and show us what he's got,
Right.
which we did during this one.
Correct.
That's helpful. Okay, thank you.
The HOC agreement, that is for both of our free chlorine analyzers at Pierce Pump Station and the new Canandaigua Booster Station. We need to come semi-annually to make sure that they're working correctly, so that we're not over or under chlorinating the system. So the whole system, you know, they come in twice a year, just like our generators. Make sure everything is working operationally as it should. So,
Since it's the cost of doing business.
yeah, it is. It's just like $3,500. That's
I got it here.
3,900.
3,900.
What does it? Revolution.
Whereas
It's on the agenda, or it's in the resolution.
the resolution 5, so
That
that
in the budget for next year. Or is
it
it one,
will be.
what's a annual, is that an annual fee or is that a one time?
That's well, one year agreement.
And I think they come twice, so that
come twice a year.
agreement covers 2 visits for
Well, that's
each
like
site.
celebration per year.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do they come out of, you know?
I don't know, their service tax are, I mean, hockey's a national holiday.
That's a good question.
The only thing I was wondering is, seems like something like that, you got, 2 systems. And they're coming to town to do one of them, and you ought to get a little better rate. And
Well,
double the price for 2 of them. I don't know if you could put on your negotiating hat.
so they used to do it for 1,800. Well, now that wasn't cost effective for them. So the minimum charge is 3,500 now to come up with one. So they're doing both for 3,900.
So we already did the negotiating part.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, what happened was I was upset about the 3,500. The problem was is proprietary, they're hot.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so you
Yeah.
did a little.
well, yeah, yeah, Will's right.
As much as they're willing.
As much as they're willing to do it also.
Jim's been back and forth with Hawk for over a year now, trying to get this all straightened out and trying to have our guys see if they can calibrate them, but it's pretty specialized
Yeah.
equipment.
I think it's a good idea, I just didn't know if we could
I would love
talk
to,
them
but
down a little bit.
we do that, as you know, Al, like with Rossville. They come out of Troy, New York. So when they come down, we schedule with either East Bloomfield or the city. We're all 3 of us.
Okay.
And we share that cost coming down, we share it going back for here if you want. So that way they're not coming down for us. Coming up.
Yeah,
We try to plan it out together when they come visit Rossville stuff, so, yeah,
And at the end, they give you a certification or report.
right, the report that's
And
done.
you use that for your, what they file, TC or
Don't have to file DEC, it's just that it's working correctly. It's
shoot somebody else.
right. Any more questions on that?
No.
So I've talked to Doug about the dump truck. We bought one last November. This was here in the May, early June. This one may be here in September. May be here in September, which then still has to go get plowed for the stuff put on it. Okay. I know right now if we order the truck this month, we won't see it till the end of next year at the earliest, maybe even into 23. So if I wait till the end of this year, it could be the end of 23 before we see, which gets us off on our schedule. So I want to talk to you guys about ordering the truck. This board meeting not to exceed 250,000. They're normally around 240 for a truck, but I do know steel prices are up about 22%. So right now our plow equipment costs almost as a cabin chassis. So
You have it.
a resolution. Yeah, I have a resolution. Just
We gotta do it.
let you guys
Yeah,
know.
we have that 15-year plan.
Right.
Try to adhere to. I mean, maybe the delivery schedules and the pricing or wherever they are, but the amount of time we're using those equipment, pieces of equipment and wear and tear on them is casting, so they gotta be replaced. So
Yeah, we
if
international.
not hitting us this year, and who knows, well, it'll be a next year's budget.
Budget, right. But we won't see that truck till probably sometime late in 22.
So we're looking at standing the truck down and taking one, or you're adding it.
No, normally what happens is I'll just pick a truck, say truck 33, whatever. It's got its 10 years. It then becomes the 11th year as a backup. And then the 12th year it goes out for auction. So while one's being built, I'll call it the spare truck. And then when the new truck comes, the spare truck goes to auction. So
And we're in kind of a weird spot where we surplus our plow trucks if we wanted to send them to auction. Prices are really high right now. If we were expecting to get a new plow truck soon, but now we're looking at maybe September, so we're having to hold on to that truck for longer because we can't be down.
Right, so. I know that International still taking orders, but Western Star, I believe. It's not bad, I believe it's, Western Star, and maybe. There's one other one, I don't know either, but they're not taking any orders. Because they can't get parts. So,
What's most of your fleet in terms of chassis? What they-
oh, right now they're International. So,
What's what they're doing?
the Cummins engine in it, also on that transmission, there's,
It's standardized.
yeah, we're standardized. Yeah,
So you spec, you put a spec out on the street. you put it on. So you're
Actually-
not doing piggyback or anything. like that.
yeah, we do out to Onondaga County. bid. We
Oh,
do
okay.
that out of, so we don't have to go out to bid. It's just Onondaga County. That covers it.
And how long has it been good for?
I have to pull it up, Chuck, but we've been using it for years.
Since I've been-
Yeah, so,
Price fluctuates.
yeah, price goes up, yeah,
And you're saying about 240.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
You gotta replace those trucks.
So we had.
Which
to,
goes first, dump body or the chassis? Or usually both?
Depends. Now, since we've been using Crown rust proofing every year, it's made a big difference on the equipment, not rust. So, but typically it's the body. But the dump body goes first, 1 inches. But if you go through like 17, 16, put your fingers through the steel on the boxy places.
Some communities just replace the body, keep the chassis.
Correct.
But up here, it's not a salt.
The salt just raises hell out.
Yeah, it'll eventually get.
But the Crown has made a big difference as far as keeping shit from returning completely rust. So, and you can tell if you look at truck 7, which was a Mack, and then truck 4 is another Mack, but we start using the 4, it's night and day the difference. Just keeping on the oil on the check. I don't think you can every year just spraying with that oil that penetrates and makes a difference. Yeah.
Check the- It's worth it.
It helps us with resale at the end of the day too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because the contractors, they're looking for candidate
Mhm.
trucks.
Yeah.
Piece of truck, right?
All right, let's move along. Our
All right.
funding, I know that's,
I don't know. anything
Doug's
about
gonna be
that.
talking about that Monday, or
Okay.
week or Monday. Town board meeting.
Okay.
Got some steel put together, where money can be used, where it can't be. I noticed that the governor has delayed dispersing the money for 30 days. Holding that to it for an extra month, so. State bragging some, interest money.
What's
off
the
that,
town
you know,
getting out of the,
So we had 600,000 coming this year, 600,000 12 months. 12 months from the date you get the first 600, but how you can use it is still being debated. So, but that would be.
Couple thoughts, I don't know.
Yeah, they have a bunch of categories, but it's, the primary category that seems to make most sense is that budget recovery. And then once it goes beyond that, then it turns into, the whole thing is very nebulous, because,
Well, it is.
it can turn into hero pay for firefighters or first
Right.
responders, teachers, or somebody owes a lot of rent because they haven't been able to, like, it opens up Pandora's box. The only other category that makes any sense is basically any project, at least to me, that makes any sense is if it's a SRF eligible project, you can spend the money on it.
What's the center?
State revolving fund, so that would be drinking water and clean water state revolving fund. So it doesn't have to be necessarily on the IUP or even funded through SRF, it just has to be a project that could be eligible for SRF.
Our
So,
problem is we can't show any loss. Because we actually made out better last year than what our original budget was, because our revised budget we put together in March and April last year, we cut,
you say you
try
try
to
to
cut out,
yeah.
we wound up getting more in sales tax revenue than we have projected in 2019. So we can't show a loss. We do have expenses for PPE, things like that, but showing that loss, because we had to buy that stuff, we can't even demonstrate that, so. He's gonna do some presentation. Kathy is looking into it too, so. We'll wait on 19th to find out. Moving on to number 9, water main replacement plan. Jim wants to start replacing.
Yeah.
Well,
Spend that 600,000.
I
Which
was,
is,
you know, as I've talked before about aging infrastructure, you know, Terry asked me about 2 weeks ago, which I had about, about 20 miles of this, miles of that, how much is this?
Some of that's in the master plan.
Okay.
I would think so. Some of it really is in the master plan, and there's a recommendation in the master plan for replacing 1 to 2%.
So, but, I haven't done anything about it yet, but it's something we have to discuss for.
well, it feeds off that number 8 here, ARPA funding, if the money can be used in that area. I think, from what I've seen of it, projects like that or roads. I mean, we can, infrastructure work is, I mean, that's what we're talking about in DC now, infrastructure. But, right, to me, anything that's infrastructure related would probably wind up being okay use for this money, but again, though, some of that, you found some of the work you've done, some of that ACP pipe.
It is.
Washing and been in the ground for, talking about it in the master plan, but it's been in the ground 50 years. Wow.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's odd size, like on Old Cheshire Road, like, okay, a good example is, you know, there's a bill this month for a company to do an sort of, okay, but it's an odd diameter pipe. Instead of being, I'll say, 14.2 for 12 inches, 14.55, has dimples in it, like from the, when they made it. And the reason why we're going this way is because I don't want to shut down Ferris Hills and Clark Meadows and about a mile of water main to cut out a section of pipe and put in a valve, which would take many hours to do. And for Ferris Hills and Clark Meadows to shut down, they have to put together a plan, produce it to the Department of Health. If it's approved by the Department of Health, put out people for fire protection. How do we re-sanitize a line? How do we take care of everybody has to go to the bathroom? So it's an expensive valve, but to put all those people in a bad place because our valves are so far apart on this AC pipe, we're putting this inserted valve for this pressure reducing function. So hopefully by the end of July.
What was our target percentage, Greg, for annual?
On the water master plan, it's like 1 to 2% of your total system. So I don't know if I quantify that.
I don't know how
That's
to quantify that either, because there's like miles of AC pipe.
right. Well, essentially, I mean, it's your whole system. So you have to take your total linear footage into 1 or 2%.
So 125 miles of water main.
So that's a couple miles a year.
Couple miles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
That's
at $100 a foot, you know,
It's hard to come
it's
by.
that's a lot of money.
But the whole point though is still like anything is better than nothing, right?
Well,
So
also, I mean, it's like the roads and bridges, everything else in this country, we put in a reasonable cost maybe now. Replacement,
yeah, people, well,
it
people,
doesn't last forever, right?
that's the problem.
Yeah. But we don't have, I mean, we call out doing that, but we don't have a plan to do it. Which areas first, which is second, you know, but that's something that we at least gotta be thinking about. Put the plan together, you know,
Right.
what areas should we, and then how do we account for it, how do we pay for it without, you know, dramatically raising the, O&M costs or, you know,
Correct.
some other source. You know, so.
But Jim's probably right. I think, you know, targeting the AC, probably, you know, that's probably the easiest thing to look at. When we started doing some of
What
that,
percentage of your system, they say?
Probably at least half.
I was gonna say. it's got
Oh,
close to
okay.
half.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
that's a lot.
1%
Yeah, it is.
25 years.
Yeah, it's, well, you know, the main part of the system went in, the sixties, late sixties, and that was all AC.
Always. So basically. Cooley, defense, Michigan,
You know,
um,
main-
Little Cheshire
main-
Main.
Middle Cheshire, Bristol. Lake Road has a lot on it.
Okay.
From Foster Road to Wells Curtis is all AC. 80 going up is AC.
Well, like Terry said, it was a big priority area.
Right.
It's our house, truck where we live.
Yeah, that's a priority there.
Yeah, true, it's pretty,
So, yeah,
well, that's, that winter project too.
Yeah, winter
Putting, you know, starting to look at, and where we had problems, and we were,
so
I mean, we had that one,
I would say, whatever reason, at the south end of town, the pipe is more degraded than I would say the north of the town, because of the soils.
so,
You know, like you can, it's pumped. The
pH and soil.
yeah,
Yeah, cheers.
you know, it's not, when you, like up here on Middle Cheshire Road, when you move it closer to 520, the stone isn't, I'll say, if I say stuck, like, it's literally like embedded in a pipe, and you gotta hammer it out. You know, so,
Out the cement and the asbestos cement.
right, so.
Mhm.
Well, won't be taking the winter off.
No,
They're
probably
looking
not.
for drainage pipes and,
No.
putting together this plan, that, they have something that's gonna have to be your experience and your knowledge and what's there, what's the master plan we put together,
Mhm.
and all that.
Cheshire, it's all AC.
Oh,
Wells Curtis, it's all AC. A little bit of ductile for some reason, I don't know why. It's like they lay AC, then went ductile a little bit, then went AC.
Right.
It's odd.
They just price that over, so.
That
Depends on when it happens.
could have been, so. There's no records of that, so. I just know where it is.
and you know where your brakes are too.
No, it's not necessarily a lot of brakes, a lot of quick taps run off. The old steel
Oh,
bands,
okay, the connection.
connections, and the couple. So. Mhm.
Does it get pressure though? Doesn't it get pressure?
No,
The pressure in the pipe is that degrades from the outside in. The protection you have against the pressure pushing out.
right.
I mean, those higher pressure areas, but when you look at it first,
No.
more apt. Really haven't had that many.
Typically, we don't, no. We don't have a cast like Marlton have, they have their problems.
Yeah, cast is brutal.
So, but we never have, with our pressure in our system, doesn't help either. So,
Still, I guess we've been lucky.
What's the oldest plastic?
probably from the 980s on that
That's what I'm
road.
saying.
80s, they did that on that road, and
How's that one?
so far it's holding up. I'm more
Future.
I'm more concerned with the lake road and pressure. That's always at about 100 feet.
More pressure.
More pressure,
stress.
more stress. Yeah, that's the one I. No, I wish they had the ductile wire. They put that in.
So digging up a mile or two along the lake road. Interesting. It's full.
I will be around.
What, I mean, that, we're responsible for that, the county road.
Yeah.
Any help from the county doing that, or is it, is that strictly on us?
That's strictly
It's not district.
At that time, they're probably like, "Kid, I want you to take that road over, so you know."
We're gonna,
They made a suggestion many times.
we're gonna make it restored. Yeah. High standards.
Well, in that trail at the time.
Anything else? Yeah.
No.
No, good be.
It's a-
The rest of the stuff.
Mhm.
I challenge you.